was so good. Holy crap.
Okay, sorry. Let me just. Okay, so real quick, I made a little TikTok. Y'all, this is, like I said, I'm spending all day working on my YouTube, just trying to build it up. I tried to post a short, but it's impossible to do it on the computer. I am, I don't have my phone. I can't upload from my phone because it acts weird. And sometimes it allows me to upload, sometimes it doesn't. So I try to make a short on my laptop, then post it. But I posted on TikTok, so same thing. But because I want to start posting like just like good 3 minute content on my TikTok to come over here to talk about this stuff fully, so people can know like okay, regardless, social media stuff, YouTube stuff. So real quick, I want to talk about that. It's that you are dark and it's okay. That it's okay to be dark. Now I kind of alluded to this in my last video talking about my magical journey, part two. That one where it's the clip off. One of the things that is it told me, and one of the things that connecting to my demonic lineage, my underworld lineage, and after that dream that I talked about of being told that I was of the underworld and being connected to reptilians and dark monsters and dark beings like that. Ugh, screen, what are you doing? Oh, okay. Hope y'all like the little ambiance I tried to give y'all as I'm talking because I know I like to have something too in the background as I'm talking. I hope this audio isn't loud. It shouldn't be. I'll turn this a little bit more. Ooh. Yeah. Okay, because I know some parts are kind of loud. It seems like. Anyway, I only recorded. Anyways, whatever. Shut up. So, get to the point. So what I've learned was that like, and working through my sex trauma and my trauma with shame and like being dark because I had this point in my life where like, first of all, two things. If source is your highest form of divinity, that's true to you. If it's not, that's true to you. And I'm saying this to say real quick, because I'm gonna hop back into that. Let me say this real quick. I've learned that we live in a dreamlike matrix, and we live in a dreamlike dream. This dream is full of dreamlight. A lot of things in this dream is made of light, right? So when people talk about light, they're talking about that, and that's not wrong. But there are a lot of beings out here like me who are void beings or underworld beings or demonic beings, right? And we are darker beings within this light matrix, right? And matrix doesn't mean bad, it just means systems or formulation. That's all matrix means, is a system of formulations. So a system of formulas, right? And we live in this dreamlike magical dream. I'm talking about from the top, from the highest to the high to the lowest. And when I say dream, I'm referring to source on down. Okay? What you call source on down. And we are beings, dark beings or light beings, operating in this dreamlight dream, right? This dreamlight imagination, right? And not everyone's meant to be light. Not everyone's meant to be light. Period. That's literally the best way I can put it. Not everybody's meant to be light. And one thing that I've learned was like my divinity doesn't come from light. Now, I will say I'm a little different because I'm pretty sure a lot of people might not view this, but for me, source, pure imaginary light isn't my origin point. It may be my spirit's origin point, but it's not my origin point, right? And that's two different things. And a lot of people who say, oh my God, I learned, okay, so a lot of people who say source is everything, source is everybody, everybody is source. That is true, but not fully for everybody. Yes, source is everybody's, you can say, relative connection point, but that's for some beings, that is their origin point, right? Source is their origin point. pure imaginary light is most beings' origin point. They came from that. So for them, they say everyone is source, everybody is source. Yes, that is true for them and beings like them. But there are beings like me, you forget to include however. So when people so for beings like me, when dark beings, for people who say source is your origin point, they forget to include however. Now let me say this real quick because there are beings on the let's this is just a way to put it, right? So don't get too caught up on my wording. There are beings of the tree of life, right? That are of the left hand path. Benai tree of life, left hand path, right? There are dark beings of that left hand path. But just like those dark beings of the tree of life, they still operate within the light matrix, right? Within the light dream. And for them, there might be ads in here, so forgive me. Um, because this video got ad points, as you can see. So I'm just throwing that out. So I'm gonna mute those ads just in case they pop up. So I'm just letting y'all know. But those beings of the left hand path of the tree of life are still part of the light, right? They're just the darker part of the light. They are the darkness within the yang energy.
Hey everyone.
Shut up, bitch. Um, sorry. They are the dark path of the light, right? They are the part of the light that's dark. Period. And for them, their origin point is still source. It's still pure imaginary light, right? And we're not going to talk about Hakate, Mommy, because that's a little different too, because I'm about to talk about her in a minute. She's not necessarily of the tree of life. Parts of her is, but she's ultimately not. They aren't, right? So, you have those beings. I like to call them dark angelics or dark light beings because they're still of the light, but they're the dark part of the light. And then you have void beings, right? Or prime evil beings or prime chaos beings who are of the darkness. Typically, these beings' origin point isn't source. To me, source is not my origin point, it's my sibling. And I've said this in my other videos where I never saw source as a source, I saw them as a sibling. Mommy, she's mommy, right? Hakate. The pure Hakate is pure primordial darkness. Pure imaginary darkness. As I said in my other YouTube video, Source and Hakate are twins. They serve the same function, although differently. One is a tree of life and one is a tree of death. That's the best way to put it. One is yin, one is yang. You see, both are separate, but they still have each other inside them, right? So there are beings of that line. That is more close to my origin point, but that's still not my origin point either because my origin point, going back to void beings, and I said this in my clip off journey videos. So if you want to watch that, that'll give you a little more context. But there are beings that are of the void before Source, before Hakate, in the sense that we were made alongside them. We and beings who, even if they weren't made alongside them, beings that are of the void. Period. Right. Um, One thing that I've learned along this journey and connecting with mommy and the dream and my demonic family, my underworld family, etc., is that you got beings that are of the left hand path tree of life, and then you have the beings that are of death, the prime evil path, right? Which don't operate within the light. They are a part of it because everything is connected. The light produces the no, the void produced the light, right? And I call the void the truest dream, the truest dreamer, the first dreamer, the first bound dream, etc. Right? That's my eldest sibling. I like to look at them as my eldest sibling. That's just authentic to me. Now, when I'm talking about there are beings of the tree of death path, people who are of the left hand path tree of life like to say that that's part of the left hand path, which is totally fine. But what I've come to understand is that although that beings of the tree of death, they do touch some of the stuff of the tree of life, obviously, right? And some of the beings of the tree of death and forces are loosely connected to the left hand path tree of life. However, what I've come to understand is the tree of death is an entirely different process altogether. People of the left hand path, I mean, anybody can use any system, right? So, obviously, because the dream is fluid, everybody's imaginary. So, of course, right? But what I come to understand is that the people of the path tree of life, they do use the tree of death. And of course, anybody can. You could be the middle path, the right hand path. It doesn't matter which path you are. It ain't got to be no path on the tree of life. If all I give a fuck, it's just it doesn't matter what path you are. Anybody can utilize any resources. But what I've learned is that like a lot of people of the tree of life left hand path, the the um the dark light beings, they typically use the clip off just for alchemizing their trauma. And that's totally valid and that's fine. I'm not bashing anybody. But but that is a different thing versus than being of the clip off, the tree of death, of being embodied by that, right? I call that the prime evil path. Most beings on earth and beyond necessarily aren't on the prime evil path. And it is a rare path. But I want to say this because I was also talking to myself out loud yesterday about this, is that when it comes to the darkness, just like the light, just like any force out there, it's a spectrum. And there are levels to it. Some beings may only need to tap into 30% of the darkness, whether that be the tree of life or the clip off, to fully embody their highest spirit. Some people only 10%, some people 20%, and some people don't just tap into that, but they embody the entire tree of death 100%, the void, the darkness 100%, and they don't operate with light, period, right? They primarily operate as a void being, with the void as the void, right? And their origin point isn't source, it's the void, the truest dream, right? And that's one of the things that I've come to learn for me. That's what I'm connected to over this entire 2 years and 4 months of learning myself. And a lot of people, regardless if it's the left hand path, um, dark angel, I like to call it dark angels, or dark light path, or if it's the tree of death, the prime evil path, regardless of which one you embody, you are born dark. And that is okay. How much time am I talking? I'm not trying to go no longer than 30 minutes because I can make another video. I just I'm done for today, maybe. But there are beings that are naturally just of the darkness, regardless if you still connect, regardless if source is your origin point or if the void is your origin point. I need y'all to understand, and I'm talking to people like me, people of the darkness, whether that be the left hand or the clip prime evil path. Those two different paths. Here, I'm sorry. Those are two different paths. And regardless if you're of either path of sorcerer origin or voice origin and you're a dark being, remember, I'm talking to you and other light beings, period, that we exist as darkness for a reason. You literally cannot have light without the darkness, period. That's just the absolute truth. I don't know what to tell you. I want to tell you. We exist, and I really do not hear of my years ever since 8th grade on now, ever since 20 what 15 up until 2026 coming up. Um, now I use it doesn't matter how it doesn't matter. Shut up. I'm still talking, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We are dark beings that exist for a reason. You have to follow your most authentic path to ever reach your true divinity. If you want to walk down this path of spirituality or magic, you have to be authentic. And some of us are dark beings. Screen. Cut it out. Y'all saw I froze. Like, don't do that. Um, some of us are dark beings, and you have to remember that to be in your own most powerful, authentic power, you have to be authentic to your truest nature, right? Your truest nature being dark. And that's okay and that's valid. You are supposed to be dark. And I know that it's hard given that we live in a light matrix and we live around a lot of people who like this, like that, who use a lot of light language. And I like to call it light supremacy. Light supremacy. And they project that onto other people. Here's what I'm saying. Light is not bad, nor was it ever bad. The A lot of people, in particular, we're going to talk about Earth. A lot of people on Earth, so many things, but a lot of people on Earth are taught to fear the darkness. Period. From the moment they are in the womb, they are taught to fear darkness. And then when we explore the darkness, we are then what? Shamed. So we never know our truest divinity. There are a lot more beings on Earth that are dark than you realize. Now, I'm not saying everybody's dark, nor am I saying you are a dark being. However, it is nice to have a balance of darkness and light. But aside from that, because that applies to every being, regardless of where you're from, or what you are, or your soul origin, your spirit origin, but or your truest origin. Sorry, but there are some of us who lead as the darkness and or with the darkness versus those that lead with the light and or as the light. Okay, everybody's soul origin, everybody doesn't speak the code of light. Maybe some of us require dark codes, dark light, or void codes, etc., right? Some of us are meant to be with the monsters, the demons, the witches, the fairies, the dragons, the dark unicorns, the jinn, the monsters. I said monsters, right? Etc. And monsters. I include that also with vampires and werewolves, etc. With the moon, the dark mother, the dark moon, who are daughters, children, sons of the void and or Hecate. That's how we are meant to operate. That is necessary for this dreamlight matrix to function, for you to function. Not every being is a light code angelic person. You understand what I'm saying? Some of us are void children, uh, dark light beings, dark angels. Some of us are meant to be monsters or demons in human form, etc. Right? Or even at your height. And that's valid. That's how you're supposed to be. And one thing that I learned was like, it took me a while to get here because all I would hear was people say light, light, light. Return to the light, the light, the light. People forget that the light can also blind you. The light can also blind you. The light is just as much as an illusion as the darkness can be. You understand what I'm saying? They both can be an illusions if not handled properly. I'm not saying illusions are bad. I'm just saying it is what it is. And we can get so caught up and blinded by the light and not realize, talking about the dark beings and even the light beings, but we can forget to realize that some of us are dark, and we can forget to realize that other people are naturally of the darkness, and keep telling them light, light, light is causing more trauma to them, and it's causing them to either never reach their truest divinity or be super stagnant and slow in the process of reaching their truest self. And 18 minutes. I'm about to get up soon. And that can be extremely unhealthy. It was unhealthy for me because I just didn't know why I was so dark. Why am I dark? Why am I dark? Until I channeled and until I had my dream that told me I'm of the underworld. And once I heard that, it answered a lot of questions. And I channeled, it answered a lot of questions for me and it allowed me to relax more into my body. Of course, I still got more learning to do, even from now and then, but I've learned a lot and gained a lot. And some of us are meant to be voids, vortexes, black holes, black moons, black suns, etc. That's how we supposed to be. Not everybody came into this life to be light. Maybe we came into this life to be dark, right? To embody that truth in its darker form, right? Some of us aren't meant to embody source. We're meant to embody the void, where source came from, right? If you want to know more about source, I have videos talking about source. I have a dark occultism playlist. I talk about them there. Then I have a spirituality playlist. I talk about source there too. And I also talk about the truest imagination or true imagination, referring to the void. So just go to those two playlists. You will find what I'm talking about because I title it The True Source, True Imagination, what source really is, Hecate, source or twins, etc. You'll find those there. So I just want to give that because it'll add more context to what I'm talking about. If you don't see source the same way I do, because it doesn't matter how you see source at the end of the day. If I see source as a sibling and you see source as your origin point, it's still valid. Doesn't matter. But everybody's different. And that's my main point before I get off what I'm trying to reiterate is that everybody is different. Some people are dark light beings, some people are absolutely void beings, some people are demonic, monstrous, dark witch, dark sorcerer, etc. You know, some dark beings' origin point is source. Some dark beings' origin point is Sakate. Some dark beings' origin point is the void. Period. You understand what I'm saying? Some the underworld doesn't matter, right? They might have lineage with the underworld, demons, chaos doesn't matter, right? Some people's path is the prime evil path, EVAL, and that's fine. That's valid. Sorry, I didn't breathe. And that's valid. You are supposed to be authentic. And if your authenticity requires you to be what's on this screen right here, then be that. Okay? If you were meant to be a vampire, werewolf, monster, demon, void child, dark angel, dark fallen, dark mystical being, dark psychic being, dark cosmic being, whether you are connected to Cthulhu or beings outside of Cthulhu that are dark, doesn't matter. If it's authentic, if your darkness is authentic, then that's what you're supposed to be. You understand what I'm saying? Especially if you are a person who are deeply connected to reptilians, like myself, who are deeply connected to reptilians, then be that. If your dark nature requires you to eat meat, do that. If that's what your authentic dark nature requires you to do, and if that requires you to be authentic, then do that. Not everybody's meant to be fruits, nuts, and berries. Not saying that's bad. Sometimes you're meant to mix the two. Sometimes you might not be. Some people are literally not meant to eat meat. Then that's valid. And that's okay for them. That's their authentic truth. But that doesn't mean it's yours. And that's what I'm realizing, that everything is an open world MMORPG. You literally have to customize. It gets customized specifically more and more to you the more you awaken. It becomes less broad and more specific to you. Because your specific nature plays into the overall macrocosm to balance out everything, including yourself. So if you are just naturally a dark being, be that. If you are naturally a light being, be that. I will say the clip off is starting to change my chakra system. It's starting to change my being. That's one thing I've been researching and learning and sitting with, and oh my god.
Shop your
And this is what my dreams have been telling me so far. I'm still going, like I said, I'm new to this journey, right? To this clip off, to this light, becoming the darkness. So I'm still learning, like we always do. We'll never stop learning. Never forget that. Source is still learning. The void is still learning. Mommy, Hecate is still learning. The higher beings or higher realms are still learning as well. And one thing that I literally was told directly, because I was sitting with myself, because I was in a little rut, I'll admit that. And I was talking to my family, my space family. I was like, well, why do I have to learn? I feel like if we just remember, why can't we just remember it? And they were telling me, no, you still have to learn because every being on every level, including Source, the Void, or Hecate, is evolving. every second of every day is evolving. It doesn't stop, because if you stop evolving, everything calcifies and becomes cold, dark, desolate. Not in the evolves way, but in the way where nothing evolves, nothing changes, nothing becomes. You can't become if you're stagnant, if you're stuck, if you're immobile, right? And that's what they were telling me. And I was like, oh, because even now, I'm still going to have to learn on the higher realms. Yes, I may gain some memories back if I do this, and that. But I still got to learn. I still got to learn about this, that, and the other. It doesn't change. The higher beings learn from going down. The lower beings learn from going up. That's what I've been understanding and sitting with and channeling. So, we are here, dark beings in a physical form, to learn that it's okay to be dark on all realms, and it's okay to be dark in a human form. We are supposed to embody and hold the darkness because that's our role, that's our function. Not everybody's meant to hold it the same way as somebody else. The light beings aren't meant to hold the darkness the same way as dark beings are. That's just cosmology 101. Because then it'll be too much, and then it can corrupt. And everybody's not meant to hold the light the same way as some other light beings or some other dark beings are meant to. And that's valid and absolutely authentic and accurate as fuck. Okay? You just literally have to go based off your authentic nature. And if you want to know why you're so dark, it's because you are. Tap into yourself. Tap into whatever force or divinity you feel like you need to get answers. And be open to those answers. And sit with those answers, because those answers might lead to more answers or more questions. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, I just want to say that it's okay to be dark. You are dark. It's okay. That's because you are supposed to. That is your function. You came here to remember that and learn what that means for you in a new way. We're not meant to just remember everything, because we don't grow by just remembering everything. That means you would not even be a human. You wouldn't even know what a human is if that's the point. But you're a human so you can understand what it means to be dark at the lowest level. Not low as in bad, but at its truest level. Now that I can see my darkness at its most absolute form, what does that mean for me? How can I learn what that means for me? And how can I make that new for my new state of being in this reality, in this dream? Because yes, your past lives slash other lives are important, but this is the most important. There's a reason why you remember this one and not the other ones like that. Because you are meant to alchemize and become even more than what you are up there than you are down here. Wait, down here than you are up there. You're supposed to become more and alchemize down here than what you ever could up there. What information that you are down here gets sent back up there to your truest self, and you move accordingly. But you can only do that by being authentic to your truest nature, and that's dark, and that's okay. But yeah, just remember, if you're meant to be a void being, what does a void being look like down here? That way, in the cosmos, you can see, oh, so I didn't know void beings can look like that. I didn't know void beings can do that. I didn't know void beings can love like that. Hold up, you're meant to be a rewritten code for your authentic nature. And that's darkness. That's the void. That's Hecate. That's demons, monsters, whatever. That's dark light, dark angelics, fallen ones. It doesn't matter. Okay? Because some vampires' soul origin is source. Some vampires' soul origins is the void. Same with demons, same with monsters, same with any being. Or whatever. People's some beings' origin point might be, like I said, Hecate, source, or the void, or monsters, or whatever. Everybody's different, and it's meant to be, because if we were all the same, we wouldn't exist, and we will all be dead. So yeah, there'll be no point or meaning to any of this shit, bitch. But yeah, we'll say that. Uh, I'll see y'all again. Bye. Love y'all. See y'all again. Bye. My mic working? Holy shit.